They told her to step out of the car. They told her she matched a description. They told her that if she didn't cooperate, they could make her entire life disappear with one radio call. What Officer Dean Rourke didn't know, standing there on that rain-slicked highway with his hand resting arrogantly on his holster, was that the woman he had just pulled over was about to dial the one person in America who could end his career with a single sentence. Alicia Carter hadn't planned on making that call. She had only wanted to get home to her daughter. But when a racist cop decided she was the perfect target for a midnight power trip, Alicia did something he never expected. She called her father. And Officer Rourke was about to learn that some families don't just fight back, they bring the entire government with them. The rain had started as a light drizzle over Ridgewood County, Georgia, the kind that made the asphalt shine like black glass under the glow of highway lights. It was 11:38 p.m. when Alicia Carter finally left St. Mary's Regional Hospital, her shoulders aching from 14 straight hours on the trauma floor. The scent of antiseptic still clung to her scrubs as she slid into the driver's seat of her aging silver Toyota Camry and exhaled slowly. Her hands trembled slightly from exhaustion as she started the engine. All she could think about was Maya. Her 5-year-old daughter was waiting at Mrs. Ellison's house down the street, probably curled up on the couch under the same pink unicorn blanket she refused to sleep without. Alicia glanced at the dashboard clock. If she didn't get there in 15 minutes, Mrs. Ellison would charge her for another hour of babysitting, money Alicia absolutely didn't have this week. She checked the speed limit sign as she turned onto Route 17. 40 miles per hour. She set the cruise at 38. Careful. Invisible. Quiet. Those were the rules she lived by when driving alone at night in a county that had a reputation older residents whispered about, but never said out loud. For 10 peaceful minutes, the road was empty except for the soft hum of her tires against wet pavement and the rhythmic swish of her windshield wipers. Then the night exploded in blue. Flashing police lights burst to life in her rearview mirror, reflecting violently across the rain-coated highway. Alicia's heart dropped into her stomach. The siren didn't blare. It only gave a sharp, aggressive chirp, the kind officers used when they were already irritated. "Please not tonight," Alicia whispered under her breath as she slowed the Camry and pulled onto the gravel shoulder beside a dark stretch of forest road. She followed every rule she had learned growing up in the South. Engine off. Interior light on. Hands visible on the steering wheel. Fingers spread wide. She kept her breathing slow and steady as she watched the patrol car in her side mirror. The door opened slowly. A tall white officer stepped out and adjusted his duty belt as he walked toward her window with deliberate swagger. His flashlight beam immediately shot through the glass, blinding her. "License and registration." He barked before even reaching the door. Alicia blinked against the light. "Good evening, officer," she said carefully. "My license is in my wallet. I'm reaching for it now." "Just move slow," the officer snapped. Alicia retrieved the documents and held them out. The flashlight beam finally dropped slightly, revealing the name stitched onto his chest. Rourke, Officer Dean Rourke. His face looked like it had been carved from stone and irritation. Thick jaw. Buzz cut. The expression of a man who had already decided what kind of person she was before she spoke a word. Rourke glanced at her license and then at her face. "Alicia Carter," he said slowly, dragging out the name. "You know I had pulled you over tonight." "No, sir," Alicia replied quietly. "You swerved back there," he said. Alicia frowned slightly. "I don't think I did." The officer leaned down, closer to the window, his breath smelling faintly of chewing tobacco. "Are you calling me a liar?" Alicia felt the familiar knot of fear tighten in her chest. "No, sir. I'm just saying I've been under the speed limit." Rourke shined his flashlight across the back seat, scanning every inch of the car like a predator studying prey. "Step out of the vehicle," he said abruptly. Alicia froze. "Is there a reason, officer?" Rourke's eyes narrowed. "Because I asked you to." Alicia slowly unbuckled her seatbelt and stepped into the ring. The cold droplets soaked through her scrubs almost instantly. "Hands on the hood," Rourke ordered. She complied. The metal was freezing against her palms. Rourke began patting her down with exaggerated force, his tone dripping with suspicion. "You smell that?" he called over his shoulder toward the patrol car where a younger officer stood nervously watching. "Smells like weed." The rookie hesitated. "I don't smell anything, sir." Rourke shot him a glare that could freeze fire. "Then you need to clear your sinuses, rookie." He turned back to Alicia. You got drugs in the car? No, sir. Alcohol? No. Rourke stepped closer, lowering his voice. Funny thing is, Miss Carter, I can take you in for a DUI right now if I want to. Alicia's heart skipped. But I haven't been drinking. Rourke shrugged casually. Doesn't matter what you say. What matters is what I write in the report. The words hung in the air like poison. And when that report hits the board at your hospital, he continued slowly, your nursing license disappears. Alicia's stomach turned. Please, officer. My daughter is waiting for me. Rourke smirked. Daughter, huh? He leaned closer. You know what happens when a parent gets arrested for drugs? CPS steps in. Alicia felt the world tilt. They take the kid, Rourke said casually. Temporary custody until the investigation is finished. The threat landed like a hammer. Alicia's fingers curled slightly against the hood of the car. She had seen trauma before. Blood, violence, death. But the thought of someone taking Maya away cracked something deep inside her chest. She closed her eyes and took one slow breath. Then another. When she opened them again, her voice was calm. Officer, may I make a phone call? Rourke laughed loudly. What do you think this is? A movie? I just need to tell someone to pick up my daughter, Alicia said quietly. The officer considered it for a moment before waving dismissively. Fine. One call. But if it's a lawyer, I'm taking the phone. Alicia reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. Her thumb hovered over the contact list for half a second before pressing the name at the top. Dad. The phone rang once. Twice. Then a calm voice answered. Alicia? She swallowed hard. Dad? I need help. The voice on the other end instantly sharpened. Are you hurt? Not yet, she said quietly. A police officer pulled me over. He's threatening to arrest me. There was a brief pause. Put him on the phone, the voice said. Alicia lowered the phone. Officer, my father would like to speak with you. Rourke rolled his eyes and grabbed the phone from her hand. Listen here, he said into the receiver smugly. I don't know who you think he stopped. His face changed instantly. Wait, who did you say you were? His smirk slowly disappeared. The rain continued falling around them. And somewhere far away, a convoy of black government SUVs had just started their engines. The rain kept falling as Officer Dean Rourke slowly realized the situation was slipping out of his control. Only minutes earlier he had been pacing beside his patrol car, confident that the badge on his chest made him the most powerful person on that empty stretch of highway. Now he stood frozen in the headlights of 3 black SUVs while a group of silent tactical operators watched his every move. The man standing in front of him, Marcus Carter, hadn't raised his voice once, yet the authority in his calm tone carried more weight than any command Rourke had ever shouted. Unlock the door, Carter repeated quietly, his eyes steady. For a moment Rourke's pride pushed him to resist. He told himself this was intimidation, some kind of bluff meant to scare him. But the men behind Carter moved with the quiet precision of professionals who didn't bluff. Their rifles had been raised once already, and the red laser dots had painted his chest like a warning he couldn't ignore. Slowly, reluctantly, Rourke lowered his weapon. The tension in the air shifted immediately as the operators lowered their rifles in response, though none of them took their eyes off him. The rookie officer, Kyle Ramirez, exhaled shakily, relief washing over his face. Rourke walked toward the patrol car with stiff steps, pulling the keys from his belt. The metallic click of the lock sounded louder than it should have in the quiet night. Alicia Carter stepped out of the back seat, rubbing her wrists where the cuffs had pressed into her skin. She looked exhausted from her long hospital shift, but her expression remained calm. When she walked toward her father, Marcus Carter's stern face softened slightly. Are you all right? He asked quietly. Alicia nodded. I'm fine. Just ready to go home. Carter studied her for a second, making sure she meant it, before turning his attention back to Rourke. Whatever warmth had briefly appeared vanished instantly. Officer, Carter said evenly, you stopped a woman who had just finished saving lives in an emergency room, accused her without evidence, and detained her while your camera was turned off. Rourke opened his mouth to defend himself, but the words caught in his throat. Carter gestured subtly toward one of the operators, who stepped forward and handed him a small tablet. Fortunately, Carter continued, some people are smart enough to install their own cameras. The screen showed Alicia's dashboard recording of the entire traffic stop, Rourke's accusations, his mocking tone, even the moment he snapped the cuffs around her wrists. Rourke felt the pit of his stomach drop. As if on cue, Flashing blue lights appeared down the highway. 2 state police vehicles pulled up behind the SUVs, followed by a dark government sedan. A woman in a long coat stepped out and walked briskly toward them, holding up a badge. "Agent Laura Bennett, Department of Justice," she said firmly. Her eyes settled on Rourke. "Which one of you is Officer Dean Rourke?" The rookie instinctively stepped aside. Rourke felt every gaze on him as he slowly raised a hand. Bennett nodded once. "Officer Rourke, you are being placed under federal investigation for civil rights violations and abuse of authority. Please surrender your weapon." The reality of the situation finally hit him. Just half an hour earlier, he had believed this stop would end with another warning, another story he could laugh about later at the station. Instead, he unclipped his badge with trembling fingers and handed it over. Behind him, Alicia quietly climbed into one of the SUVs, the nightmare of the roadside finally ending. And as Rourke watched the convoy prepare to leave, he realized the moment he had ignored that single phone call was the moment everything in his career had begun to fall apart. Officer Dean Rourke stood frozen in the rain as the situation he once controlled slipped completely out of his hands. Only minutes earlier, he had been certain that the badge on his chest gave him absolute authority on that empty highway. Now he held that same badge in trembling fingers while Marcus Carter watched him with calm, unshakable composure. Alicia had already stepped out of the patrol car, rubbing the red marks on her wrists from the cuffs. Despite the long hospital shift and the humiliation she had just endured, she stood quietly beside her father. "Are you all right?" Carter asked gently. Alicia nodded. "I'm fine. Just ready to go home." Carter's expression softened for a brief moment, but when he turned back to Rourke, his face became cold again. One of the operators handed him a tablet, showing clear footage from Alicia's dashboard camera. Every moment of the stop recorded, including Rourke's accusations and the moment he shut off his body camera. Rourke's stomach dropped as he watched it. Just then, flashing red and blue lights appeared as 2 state police cruisers arrived. A woman stepped out of a government sedan and approached quickly, flashing her badge. "Agent Laura Bennett, Department of Justice," she said firmly. Her eyes locked onto Rourke. "Officer Dean Rourke, you are under federal investigation for civil rights violations and abuse of authority. Surrender your badge and weapon." The words hit like a hammer. Slowly, Rourke unclipped his badge and handed it over with shaking hands. Nearby, Alicia quietly stepped into one of the black SUVs, the ordeal finally ending. Carter paused before leaving and looked once more at the disgraced officer. "Authority means nothing without integrity," he said calmly. Moments later, the convoy drove away, leaving Rourke sitting silently in the back of a patrol car, the same place he had forced Alicia to sit not long before, realizing that mocking that single phone call had just destroyed his entire career.